Welcome to Wealth and Wellness. I am your host, Eric Jetson. If you find value in this show, please like and share with other like-minded and conscious beings. This podcast is for seekers and lovers of knowledge and designed to supplement your self-development journey. If I can add value to somebody else, they can then add value to at least one more person, causing a ripple effect. We will unpack the different aspects of wealth and wellness and get perspectives from experts in their fields so you can start making better choices today. It's time to elevate with Eric Jetson.
Be as good as the other person next to us sometimes, and there's we live in this philosophy that we just have to do what's best for us all the time, which has some success behind it, but if you can do it in great numbers, that's when change really takes place.
Today's guest is a farm-to-table chef with a 10-year career creating incredible food experiences for some of the world leaders, including intimate private dinners and events for hundreds of guests from Fortune 10 companies. He is globally inspired, drawing inspiration from diverse cuisines to create inspirational and innovative dishes from around the world. He partners with local farms and artisans to utilize healthy, sustainable, and seasonal ingredients. He is a natural teacher and communicator with an easygoing yet passionate personality who connects effortlessly with guests to educate, inspire, and excite their views of food and its ingredients. I'm excited for Kenny to share his wisdom and get his perspective on wealth and wellness, as well as to learn how we can implement better practices into our lives today. I have the great pleasure of introducing our guest and my friend, Chef Kenny Woods.
Great to see you, Eric. I hope that you're doing well. I know that you're navigating and you're making and inspiring people all over, and I'm inspired by you too. So I'm excited to be on and to go on this little journey with you.
Thank you so much. Well, why don't we let the audience get to know you a little bit, if you want to give us a little bit of background on yourself and how you got to where you are today.
Absolutely. So, it's kind of like one of those classic stories. I think food brings us all together, the thought process of breaking bread, being able to have a conversation that matters, being able to let go of the ego and share a meal while we're nourishing our bodies. Like that's at the very front of my passion and where it all started. So, worked in the kitchen with my grandmother at a very young age, Sicilian grandmother from Southern Italy. One of those kids that if I was getting in trouble or doing goofy stuff around the house, it was like sit on the stool, stir the sauce, and I think that type of energy and that type of love, seeing what my grandma put into the food and, bringing food to the table when she was living with us as a kid and, having that family dinner every night really inspired me. And it's where, you're able to have those conversations growing up, being able to see insights, being able to kind of study, what life is all about through your parents' eyes, through your grandmother's eyes, through your eyes, through your siblings' lives. And, it's one of those, you take it for granted when you're that young. And then when life changes, it starts to, those are the moments that matter. And we talk about time as a, reference of what's most important when we talk about wealth and wellness and all that. And time is something that, it's always coming off. And where are we spending our time? Where are we spending those moments? And I think it all comes down to that. So I definitely, got inspired from that and getting involved with cooking at a young age. And then, I knew I wanted to be a chef from the time I was around 12 years old. And that might have done me some good, not so good. In school, I kind of figured out to go to culinary school, you might not need as much educational bound, even though I ended up having to, go through school and go through education systems, which was really great and taught me a whole nother analytical side of the game. But started working in restaurants when I was 15 as a dishwasher. And then, through the ranks of being a line cook and did most of this when I was in Arizona, grew up in Arizona, Southern, Tucson. And then, worked my way up to sous chef by the time I was 19 and then executive chef at 23 and then kind of never turned my back for a second on just continuing to grow and be mentored and learn and fail and learn from those failures to get to the point where you're always learning. And every moment and every day, no matter who you're talking to, no matter what's in front of you, you're taking a moment to learn and analyze and understand, how does this affect me? How can I learn from this exact moment? And whether it's, I don't want to make the same mistake that person just made, or how can I put myself into shoes to be that articulate with food and with service and with serving people. So I think at the end of the day, I couldn't see myself doing anything else besides, cooking and making people happy through food, because that's such an incredible feeling to see somebody's life light up from food. So that's kind of a short tale of where I'm at today. And now currently I'm the director of culinary and innovation at a resort called 1440 Multiversity, which is a 501c nonprofit in Northern California. And, just a little bit different from the restaurant game, but it's its own hustle and its own, the nonprofit world is a very deep and, trying to understand it all in 1 second. It's taken me 5.5 years to get to the point that I understand it as much as I do now.
That's amazing. Well, yeah, you touched on a good word, analyze. We got to be analytical. We got to take that time to reflect on those observations and experiences that we have. And yeah, we take it for granted, and we don't have that skill set necessarily as a child to do so in the moment. But now, I found myself in my personal development journey analyzing a lot of my childhood, a lot of my memories, a lot of the situations and environments I was in. And now it just makes more sense. You slowly start building those connections. You get to learn yourself a little bit better. And once you can look within and learn yourself a little bit better, then you understand why you're reacting in certain situations the way you are. I think of my brain as kind of a computer, and I've got my conscious mind and my subconscious mind. And, what you repeatedly do gets ingrained in that subconscious mind. And unfortunately, we've just been programmed by our circumstances, by our environment. And some grew up in great environments. It sounds like you grew up in a wonderful, loving environment. And that's all we really want as human beings. We want to be loved, and, we want to be stimulated, and that's it. So tell me about that upbringing. What was the conversation about wealth and money like?
Absolutely. And I think, at the end of the day, those conversations came from my parents, like these two, and my grandmother as well, at the dinner table growing up, as these two blue collar workers. My dad working for American Airlines still to this day I think he's at year 35. My mom has worked for Costco for 37 years. So both on the ground, they're not technically in management. They've kind of tasseled with some management and supervision parts of their career, but they didn't like the political side of it. So for them, like, they're just hard workers, like, picking up overtime, getting paid hourly. They've never been salaried their entire lives, which is an interesting perspective because I've been salaried since I was 19. So kind of an interesting difference. My grandmother was a pediatrician nurse. So, being a nurse, that love and that kindness and that nurturing was a real big part of that as well, and a lot of structure, a lot of discipline, and a lot of, this is how you do it, this is your routine, this is where you're at. But I think, money wise, the discussion was always just only really do you need what you need. Like, you have to decide what your needs are from your wants. And I think early on in life, it was like, you look down, you look at the dinner table, come back to the dinner table, you come back to these family vacations, and you start thinking about, you take all those for granted when you're a kid, because you don't know what the world is really like. You're protected. Your mind hasn't been exposed to, and for some of us, and luckily I didn't have a lot of the drama or the negativity when I was that young, up until the point that my parents divorced. And I think that's when that divorce happened, and it kind of shook the fabric of my upbringing, where I was 9 or 10, my little sister a little younger, but I was involved with the conversations of who's going to get what, how is this going to happen, like, what are we going to do? And so when all that happened, I got a whole other perspective, because when they're a family unit before, it was like, we're going to save to buy this house, we're going to save to get this new car, like, here's how savings works. Like, we had chores when we were a young age, and it was all about, you got paid at the end of the week for your chores. It might have only been $5 to $10, but you could use that for something like, when we go to the grocery store, I'm like, Dad, I want this. Well, do you have your money? So being taught at an early age that not everything's free, is a big deal. It's an interesting concept for someone that's young, and for our youth is, you can't just go and pick a McDonald's hamburger off a tree and stay with $100 bill. Like, there's a work around that, and there comes from a structure. But I think understanding that structure, understanding what money can do and where money can kind of cross lines, came from that divorce. Seeing, my parents build their dream home together to then sell it, to then have my dad try to find a way to still, have us in our same neighborhood, living in the same house that we grew up in for a while. And then my mom going to an apartment, you start to see this, life's not as easy as you think it would be, and and that was the big part for me too, is like, when the divorce happened, it kind of shook the the strength of the finances that my parents both had, because a divorce is very expensive. There's a lot of struggles that happen with those divorces. There's a lot of this pull and prod, like this is mine, this is mine. There's a power trip going on. There's like the kids are involved a little bit. I was more involved than my sister because I was older, but they both walked away from that divorce not feeling financially as secure as they both wanted to. My dad picked up a second job. My mom, like I said, moved into that apartment. So, when you start to see that type of crucible happen in your life, you start to kind of hold things a little tighter. Like you start to understand a little bit more of what stress is and what can happen with division. And so when I first got to work, I wanted to work, and my parents actually signed a waiver that I could work at 15. So I could work under the table. And the whole thought process behind that was my parents wanted me to get into a position where I knew what it was like to make my own money, to be able to have a little bit of freedom, but also get on the ground of, hey, you really want to be a chef? Are you sure you want to be a chef? Do you know what that's like? Get involved with it. And so, the conversation at the table was always, are you happy? I think that's the biggest takeaway, is like, what makes you happy and what do you need to do to get to be happy? And that, that can have a lot to do with your finances, and also, how to tighten the belt. Like how do you get to a point of, okay, I really want to get to this level, whether it's where I live or what I eat for dinner or what clothing I wear or how I can plan for the future. And you have to then, if you can't sacrifice a little bit, you'll never get to reap the rewards of your sacrifice. If you're always living day to day in the, I'm living the moment, I'm going to live my best life right now, you're not going to have the future you want. And I think seeing both my parents have kind of their dreams shattered, rebuilt, and now they're in, they both have separate lives, both have partners they've been with, both have houses that they've built up and are worth all this money now, second homes, retirement's getting close. They can see the fruits of their labor, which is very interesting. So now it's kind of this, to be able to see it from the child perspective at 50,000 feet up to now living presently to see where they're at. It's been really cool to see them both grow on their own and also teach the lessons that they taught us from a young age.
Wow. Yeah. I didn't realize that your parents had split up, and I can relate. Yeah. My parents split up when I was young. And did that add fuel to your fire? Did that give you more drive and motivation to secure your own financial wellness?
I think for me, it's interesting because, when you go through divorce, everyone has it differently. You can kind of look at oh, now I have 2 Christmases and I have 2 Easters and I have 2, whatever, like that whole thing. But for us, that wasn't really the motivator for me. The motivator for me was, how do I make sure I'm protected if something like this ever happened to me? How can I make sure that I have my own future? Like, doesn't matter who I'm with as a partner, doesn't matter like kind of where life is going to take you. Like, you got to have your own back. And so for me, like, no matter what I'm supporting in my life, whether it's my immediate family, my immediately close friends, colleagues, all that, you got to make sure you're saving for yourself. Because I saw my parents go through this. Well, we did this together and we did this together. And I think that that's a beautiful thing. But you must understand, at the end of the day, when all the cards are laid out, if you don't have yourself secured and backed up, bad things are going to happen, and you got to be able to have your own assets. So I think it motivated me to be, a little bit more, secure with myself, secure with what I could bring to the table, and understanding that, working in the restaurant industry takes a long time to grow up and to grow through the ranks. And so I was blessed to start really early so that I could get to a financial space where, I feel secure and, have more life balance and such. But yeah, when you're young, I think when you first start getting paid money, you can be a little bit like, oh, cool, I have money now, I can do whatever I want. But there was always the part of me that was like, you better have a little bit being saved and a little bit that you're thinking about so that you can, continuously be healthy and be able to do what you want, be more in control. Because control is a big thing, right? We don't control a lot. We control a lot less than we think we do in this life. But if you can at least plan and try your best to find some type of security with yourself, whether it's financially, with a balance in your life, with a routine, it's going to all kind of move you forward to the level that you want to get to, which is that dream state. I think that dream state is something that we all talk about. We dream a lot, but how many people dream and how many people act on those dreams? It's very different. So I think I was a dreamer when I was young, and I'm still a dreamer today. But I think that taking action when I was 15 to say, like, I want to get a job has really continuously pushed me to just keep wanting more, to keep learning more every day, and to keep saying, I'm not satisfied. Like, how do I continuously become happier and more satisfied? Because at the end of the day, like, that's a part of learning in life is finding satisfaction, but then also asking yourself, taking a step back and saying, how could this be more? How could this be better? How could I grow this in a different way, whether it's psychologically, physically, emotionally? Like, there's so much that can go into that.
Absolutely. I agree. And you said it best. You have to have your own back. And,
Yeah.
you got to protect yourself. You got to secure yourself. And that's not only in your finances, but also your health. We only have one body, which we were given for free. I mean, we value things that we spent money on. We don't value the things that we got for free. Our mind, our body, it blows my mind, So, I know you have a lot to share on this topic. So tell me a little bit about the food that we're eating and how food can benefit us or hurt us, and your philosophy around food and this anti-inflammatory lifestyle, and how we can literally have our own back by securing our health.
Yeah, I mean, the real topic and the real focus of food as medicine is something that I've been really diving into over the last 5.5 years. And, I'll tell a short story. When I moved out to 1440, I'd worked in restaurants, from the time of 15 to 26, like, just a journey through that. And, they don't really teach you a whole lot about, selection of ingredients. Like, yes, like you want to select like what looks best and what's fresh and what's in season, and locality is important, but not everybody has that general access to locality. But I think the big thing for me was when I moved out here, I was asked by ownership, they said they really wanted to focus on plant-based. We want to make sure that we are plant-based forward. And I was like, well, I don't cook or eat like that. Like, I don't really understand it. So I dove into cookbooks. I dove into certain restaurants in the local area in Northern California, and I went full plant-based. I was like, okay, I'm going to go full plant-based for 3 months. I'm just going to see what my body reacts, how I feel. And immediately it's interesting because your body kind of is like, what's going on? I'm eating all these, like, lots of fiber, lots of greens, lots of plant-based proteins. Like, it's a little bit different. You're having these little cravings, but then kind of towards like the second week, you start having cravings instead of kind of your body understanding what's going on. So when I went down this road, it's definitely got to be in the best shape of my life. Physically, mentally, was definitely the sharpest I'd ever been. Lots of brain fog was released. I found, chemical bounces in the food and the crops that we get. When you're not buying organic, the regulations for pesticides and for all the things you're putting into your body, that's directly going right into you. Same with the meat industry. The meat industry is very suspect along the lines of things. So you think about, you go to the store, you buy conventional beef, ground beef, ribeye steak, New York strip, whatever. Same with pork, same with poultry, especially as well. They're feeding them these diets that their bodies aren't used to eating. And we've all seen what happens, and everyone's probably seen what was it called? Super Size Me. Is that what it was? That documentary about the guy eating McDonald's every day, right? And then he's like, starts off pretty healthy, and then he ends up like, you're going to die if you keep eating this way. We're doing that to all of our livestock. We're feeding them what they're not naturally supposed to be eating. They can't break it down. We're giving them chemicals. We're giving them antibiotics. All of that, even though you think like, oh, I cooked that steak, even if, not discounting anyone's opinions here, but even if you're the person that gets a well done steak, it doesn't matter. You're still putting that into your body. You're still putting that fuel into your nutritional, purposes of your life. And that's going to spread in your body because, you mentioned it before, this being an analogy I like to make or to bring people together on is, let's say you're saving your money for the car of your dreams. And that car of your dreams is 6-speed manual. It takes this type of fuel. You got to make sure you rotate the tires. You got to make sure you keep up with A, B, C, and D so that your investment lasts as long as you want, because you've been wanting this car for 10 to 20 years. Like, you've been dreaming of it. You set goals. You got it. You're probably not going to go fill that car with, not premium gas, with diesel. You're probably not going to just never change the oil. You're going to make sure that you take care of the leather and shampoo the carpets and all this stuff, because it's this value added source. Like you physically get into this car. It brings you joy. It makes you feel, it fuels the ego in some ways. And also there's a status thing that goes with this, ABC. But we don't do that with our bodies, even for a second. Mm-hmm. When you go and you buy food you select at the grocery store, you're just looking for what's the fastest. Ooh, this looks the best. People aren't really turning around the packaging and saying, what's in this? Because if you can't, from looking at an ingredient list, if you can't identify right away what's in there, you probably don't want to put in there. And this is like hypocritical too. I mean, for me, I do this too. Like when I go to the store and I'm busy and I'm like, oh man, it's a long day. I got to eat something. I got to fuel my body. Mm-hmm. Like I make the best choice I can, but sometimes when you're on a road trip and the only thing is a gas station for the next 200 miles, you can feel the difference too. And I think at the end of the day, a lot of us don't take the time to actually think about what we're putting in our bodies, what we're feeling. This incredible, the most technologically sound instrument in the world that we'll ever use is this body that we were given. You said it too, it's this gift, right, that we take for granted because this body is resilient. It walks us through life, it runs through life, it overthinks, it underthinks, it makes sure it tells us when we're hungry, it tells us when we're in danger, there's fight or flight, there's all this that happens and we don't even know what's going on inside of this body, this temple. And if we can think about it more as a temple than this kind of taken for granted like machine that we slap around and we throw fancy clothes on to make ourselves feel good, like strip yourself down and look at yourself from a perspective of, this is the greatest gift that I'm going to get, because having this incredible life suit is going to take you to places you've never been, but it'll take you places you've never been in a better, more clear-headed state, feeling better, living more longevity if we fuel it with the right things. And you spoke about anti-inflammatory. So inflammatory is something that causes us to not necessarily work as well as we can. We go back to the car. I'm going to fill this up with the wrong gas. There's going to be adjutants, right? You're going to see the car is going to start to not work as well. Same happens with our body. When I start filling my body up with things that are going to make my body irritated or bloat or swell up or inflammation, that's where we get into a perspective our body starts to panic and it starts to source things like, oh man, I'm going to stick this fat here because I need to secure it because maybe this is the only good fat I'm going to get all day. Or you're feeding it this food that doesn't sit in your system and actually like pour into your body. You don't actually soak up the nutrients. If you're eating, junk food, processed foods, they're going to go right through your body because your body's like, well, there's not much I can take into this, and so when that happens, you start to really feel the fatigue. You start your diet kind of gets a little bit out of control as far as your eating habits. Like that's when people are hungry, they're snacking all the time, they're making bad decisions because they don't have the necessary nutrients. Now, I'm not telling everybody to go eat a plant-based diet. I would challenge people if they can, whether it's once a month or once a week or whatever you want, to have a meatless Monday or to kind of inspire yourself that way, because when you're doing that, you're giving the body a time to just kind of relax itself, where it's constantly in work. Even when we sleep, we're always active, right? But when you give your body a little bit of, here's some very thoughtful, very simplistic, plant-based forward food, it gives the body time to reset. Look at the way your teeth are set up, okay? We have 4 canines, right? Every other tooth that's in this mouth is set up for what? It's set up for eating vegetables, grains, all those things. So if you kind of think about the perspective of that, you should and everyone's different. Everyone's body type is different as well. But, if you're kind of looking at the way your teeth are set up alone, you're kind of looking at like a 40, maybe 30, 40% meat versus plants, just from the way the mouth is set up. Like and it's kind of interesting because people don't think about this, but like, look at animals in nature and omnivores. That's how they work out. They usually are eating between 20 and 30% protein, animal proteins. The rest of it they're eating is like starches, fruits, nuts, seeds, things that they can find out there that have proteins, and then grasses and herbs and things like that grow. So, we can kind of take a second to take a step back and look at that, but that's an interesting perspective. And when we think about it, it really comes down to where you're at, no matter where it is in the world, whether you're living in a food desert or you live in like where I live in like the belt of farming in America, where there's farmers market 7 days a week. Very blessed to have that type of access, but it's all about seasonality. I think that that's the big thing with food as medicine that can really be the biggest takeaway for anybody from different backgrounds is what are you eating right now? And is it in season? And the best way to look at this is there's websites you can type in your zip code. It'll tell you what's in season, or there's calendars for your location. Like perfect example, tomatoes, right? We are so accustomed in this country to having a tomato 365 days a year, whenever we want, all times. But I'm sure and I'm sure your family can notice, and tomatoes taste different throughout the year. Tomatoes are generally a summer crop. They love hot weather. That's when they can kind of come to full blossom. That's when they can really get their full flavor, when they're sitting in the sun, being warmed up by the nutrition that the sun is giving that plant to kind of just grow, right? And so when you buy a tomato in its season, no matter where you're at globally, it's going to have the most nutritional value of the entire time that it's available. Now, if you're buying that, you're walking to a farm and you're buying a tomato in July and you're going to eat it that day, you're going to get the best nutritional level you possibly can. But even if you're buying, let's say you live in Arizona or you're in Nevada or you're in Texas, it's being shipped from California, even though it's gained miles per mile, something travels in day and time and space. We talk about time being a very big example of wealth and kind of where we're at. Same thing goes with your nutritional wealth. Every mile that tomato travels, it starts to lose nutrition, okay, because of just time, temperature abuse, handling, all that. So even if you buy that tomato in July, though, you're going to get more nutritional out of in July. Now, that tomato is now no longer coming from California. It's no longer coming from the United States. It's coming from another country. It's on a freight. It's sitting, or it was harvested in July and it gets put into they have these cold rooms that they take all the moisture level and they take all the air out, just lets things hang out and sit for a long time without spoiling. So the problem with that, though, is as it sits, it loses nutritional value every single day. So by the time you get that tomato, it's super mealy, or it doesn't taste like a tomato. You got to do more things to it to make it taste like a tomato, and you're not getting the same nutritional level. And I think, this all starts with, think about the credit card boom, right? When we went from, I need to save to buy this, to, no, I'm just going to slide this card and I'm going to get instant gratification and I'll pay for it later. Great system that's been abused, and people don't talk about actually how to work the credit card system or how to work that into being part of your financial wellness success. Because we're in the world now that's like, well, so-and-so has this, so I need it too. Same with our food. So if we can look at food and be a little bit more, picking and choosing the right ingredients, like I'm not going to buy strawberries and tomatoes in the dead of the winter, even though I would love a strawberry shortcake right now. You can do it, but are you really giving your body what it needs? It's okay to cheat every once in a while, but for that person that's like, I eat a tomato on my salad every day of the night, that's just how I do it, you're actually missing out. Because if you're going to buy and make choices that are seasonally driven, you're going to get more nutritional value out of your food. And it helps with diversity of your diet too, because if you're eating in the seasons how it naturally flows, like you look at Native American diets, and obviously we can go into a whole different conversation about what's happened with Native American diets or with Native people's diets when they get exposed to the food that we're all eating, what's highly processed, like disease is rampant, diabetes is rampant. Like it's a sad story. But the problem, or the example with them is they ate what was available through the entire year. Okay. And when you're able to do that, you're diversifying your diet, you're diversifying, the nutrient levels. Your body is kind of running through the seasons, because we don't know this either, but like your body stores fat and expenses fat and carbohydrates at different levels and different times of the year too, based on weather, based on, what's going on in your life. So if you're eating that way, typically the world or the earth is going to give you what you need in those points of time. So very interesting thought process with all that.
That is fascinating. Yeah. Gosh, thank you for sharing all that, because the more food I see, the more things that come out, it's just, packed with sugar and salt and just like ingredients I can't even pronounce. So I'm glad you brought that up, is, if you can't identify, what the ingredient list is, if you don't know everything on there, or something that's weird, just be a little more skeptical, just be a better critical consumer of that information. What are some things that you do, because you are very
Yeah.
busy, on a day-to-day or weekly basis to relieve stress and to maximize your overall well-being?
Well, I think that the big thing is a plan. It's having a plan, it's having an idea. And I think like if you're living presently in the seasons that you're living in, it's like, what am I going to utilize before it's all gone? Like I think about, not trying to go back to tomatoes and strawberries and stuff, but it's what's happening right now in summer, late spring, early summer. Like
Mhm.
I'm looking at what is available and I want to maximize what's available, because I don't want to buy that out of season because the nutritional level we just went over, but I just want to have the best flavor. I want to have the best texture. I want to have the best of the best. And, when you're a chef, that's what you search for in your day-to-day operations, when you're servicing guests, when you're inspiring your team, when you're mentoring. And I think, for me, it's having a plan. Like I know that, you know, you can go to a grocery store, you go to a grocery store when you're hungry, and when you're nutritionally not getting what you need, that's when you can go over your budget pretty quick, because you get excited about what you're seeing. So, for myself and my partner, we will take a whiteboard that has Monday through Sunday on it. We'll try to meal plan as much as we can. She and I will kind of switch off from cooking, who's going to cook, who's not. It kind of depends on who's working that level. Mostly the shopping I'm going to the store, I'm going to the farmers markets, and I'm seeing what's out there. I'm being very selective about what I'm grabbing. And it's all about, not wasting. Because I think at the end of the day, like, food waste is a huge, huge part of what they don't teach you either. We talk about financial wellness, we talk about overall wellness, and what we're creating with waste. I mean, I'm sure people have read articles or kind of pop-up feeds on, what's going on with the earth and what we're doing. And so, by being able to not waste and to find reason not to waste on food, you're just going to save money, and also you're just going to make yourself, more or less reliable on quick source eating. So for me, I know that I take my lunch to work every day. I don't eat in the restaurant because I want to control what I'm eating. I want to make sure it's like healthy and balanced. So there's, I'm always thinking about, okay, what are some healthy, quick things I can get through the day? Like nuts are packed with protein and fiber. So I'll always have nuts with me. Fruit is something that, we all love. I'm not a huge dessert guy, but I just, I do love that natural, spark and the flavor profile that fruit has. So whatever fruit is in season, like right now, I'll take berries to work, or in the fall, take pears or apples, and, just kind of as like a midday snack to make sure that you're kind of giving your body the fuel it needs. We talk about this too. Water is very important as well, because we need water to make sure that we're giving our body the tool it needs to really flush the systems, to have the energy that needs to get through the day as well. We use water a ton. I mean, our body's made up so much of water. It's like, we don't really think about that. So for me, I part of my morning routine is I drink, what is this jar? I drink, 32 ounces of water right when I wake up, every day, because, your brain needs a lot of water too. You need to kind of refresh, like I said, and get the system going again. And, having that water to digest food properly, having that water to expel energy, to cool ourselves off when we sweat, when we're in the midst of a really like tough occasion, or we're doing physical efforts. But yeah, I think that those are some big ones, and having balance, right? I mean, I do think that it's okay to, if you're like, oatmeal is what I want to start with every day, that's awesome. But just make sure you're diversifying what you're putting on top of the oatmeal. It wouldn't be brown sugar and butter every day. It's probably like, how can I put some toasted nuts or some seeds on here? And then maybe tomorrow I do some dried fruit, and I try to make a little bit of diverse choices so that your body's not getting into this funk of like, I get the same thing every day, just like us, right? If you did the same thing every day, what would happen? You get bored, you get not interested, you would make bad decisions because you'd be wound up, right? And so the body does the same thing. You're eating the same thing every day, the body gets a little lackadaisical. It's like, okay, like, this is what we're doing. Like, I'm not really excited about this. I'm going to keep storing the same amount of nutrients in the same spot over and over again. And so when you're actually diversifying, you're giving your body a little bit more of a chance to distribute that nutritional levels in different parts of the body, which is awesome. I think movement too is very important. I'm busy, but and I know a lot of people are busy, but finding time for me, like the the least I'll do is go for a walk with the dogs, twice a day. Get up early, get outside, stretch, do some meditation, some breathing exercises, take the dogs for a walk. That's when I also will call the people I care about the most, and I'm taking care of my dogs, and I'm also just calling and connecting with people, or in the morning, just making sure that they're okay. It's usually family or our friends that are going through stuff, or just someone I haven't talked to in a while. And I think that that's another important thing is connection, right? You got to connect with nature. You got to connect with yourself. You got to connect with people you love. And I think movement brings all that together, right? If you're eating pretty good and decent and healthy, and then you're getting movement, you're stretching, like, I mean, if I had the time and the space, you got to make time and space first of all, but and have your priorities straight. But if I could take a 3 times longer walk every day and go to the gym midday 5 days a week, I would. But you got to make those conscious choices of, okay, like, maybe I can only make it to the gym once or twice this week, but I can still walk the dogs every day. Like, how do you get your formula going? And I think it's all about routine and discipline, right? I think that talks fully with everything we've talked about. If you don't have the key word of discipline, you'll never be motivated to get to the points of where you want to go. But I think as far as with your first question with this topic, like, definitely need to go to the store and have a little bit more time to shop and have a little bit more time to do some research on the food that you're eating. Because if you don't, like, you're going to make decisions that are just quick, especially if you have family, like, now you're thinking about how I'm going to feed my kids. You're thinking about how, what's my wife or my husband or my partner going to really, what do they want to? And I think having a strategic plan together as a unit is really another great tool to understand, like, where we're going and how we can be balanced. It's all about balance.
I agree. Yeah, no, it's very easy to go to the grocery store, especially when you're hungry, and make bad decisions. But nowadays, everything is so overly processed where you might think you're getting something good. It's, here's a spinach ravioli or whatever, and you just pop it in the microwave for 3 minutes and boom, it's ready to go. But, if you really dive into, all the ingredients in that, it's not so good. So having a plan, I think people they make excuses. They're too busy to make that plan. They just prefer to be lazy. Oh yeah, I'll just throw this in the microwave instead of looking through a cookbook or talking over with your wife. Hey, what sounds good? Or, hey, what ingredients are at their nutritional best point right now? And let's create a dish around that. So having some, a little more awareness and some preparation, I think, another friend told me one time that proper preparation prevents poor performance. And I think that
that definitely makes sense.
And you can utilize it in all areas of life. But you obviously have got to where you are today by falling in love with what you do and taking it to the next level by educating and inspiring. And there's a lot of great chefs out there, and a lot of people are passionate about food and bringing people together. But for you, it was special. You wanted to go one level deeper and really connect with that human being and make a positive impact in their life. So that's really, really awesome. Tell us kind of about your vision for your future. Where are you going to go from here?
Yeah, I've been blessed, like I said before, to go through the ranks in a traditional restaurant setting, open kitchen. When you're kind of like spotlights on, and that spotlight, it just gets bigger with time and with the more experiences. But I think coming to 1440 and coming to California, I had more time to spend with people, with the guests, and connect with the community a little bit deeper. And so for me, community is huge, and whether it's, nonprofits outside of the current one I work in that I work with on the time, and there's a program called Food What out here in Santa Cruz County that they essentially take underserved communities of youth and they put them in a situation where they're actually working together in community. So they put them on a farm, they learn how to plant, they learn how to identify food, how to grow their own food. And then my part is I'll come in, I'll do it like 3-4 times a year. And I'll come in and I have no idea what we're going to cook. I have no idea what's going to happen, but I come in and I cook with half the group I cook with, and half the group harvests right out of the farm. And then I work with them to say, okay, here's how we're going to plan this out. Here's how we're going to set up some teamwork. Everybody has their job and has their technique. And then we cook food for about 60 people, including themselves. They can invite their families. There's certain people that come up, but you start to see, this educational piece of helping the youth. Right. And so mentorship is a big deal to me. Like I love being mentored. And I think in the flip side, I love to mentor because, sharing ideals and sharing techniques and sharing wellness ideas, we're just helping each other. And that type of work, that type of energy prospers just this immense amount of gratitude, and gratitude's a big word for me. Like there's, I think I was introduced to meditation maybe 6 years ago and like had a whole other understanding. I went through like a really tough period where I was like, I don't know what I want to do for work. Relationship that I was in, was falling apart. I was trying to refocus on myself, and the best way to focus for yourself and the best investment you can do is to actually give yourself back some time. And when we think about meditation, everyone's like, oh, that's a little too woo woo for me, or that's not my deal. Like, I have my meditation is whatever you want. This right now is a meditation. Like, I'm focused and I'm on a page with you. Like, I'm here presently with you. It's just, where do we put our energies, and being able to reset and taking some time every day to just kind of slow down, thank the body, take some really deep breaths, slow down, kind of take it all in. Like the whole phrase of, stop and smell the roses. That is about as true as it gets with life, because if we don't actually know what we're doing in life, we don't actually connect with the people or the moments or the energies that we're living in there. What is it then? Then what are we doing? Are we living or are we working? Like, how do you have that balance? So I think for me, what's next is, just continue to grow what I've learned out here, continue to just learn. In general, I'll be a life learner forever. If I'm not learning, I'll probably be dead. And I think that speaks to, my hunger for just wanting more, to connect with more. So I think, for me, I want to get out into the world a little bit more. I really do. Being at 1440 is incredible, where like people come to us and, I get to host and have conversations that matter. I really get to meet these incredible world leaders that are very diverse, from tech, from Fortune 100 to 500 companies, whether it's a meditation, guru that comes in there, whether it's somebody that, like a Steven Spielberg, or somebody that you're not really able to see on the street, but then you can connect with them because I have that ability for them to stand in front of me. And I teach a lot of cooking classes and do open houses, private dinners, where I'm like hosting these events, and you get to really connect with people. But I want to get on the road a little bit more. I want to, get out and to meet some more people and be able to connect in more diverse areas, whether it's, cooking through food, or teaching people about what farm to table is all about, or going and meeting a farmer that's doing something special, trying to figure out how I can help them get that food onto a restaurant's menu. Like, that's the kind of stuff that inspires me. But it's all about human connection. Like, I love connecting with people. At the end of the day, I got into this business because I love making people happy, because when people are happy, it fills you up with energy too. I'm definitely an extrovert. I love to be connected and love to have, like, I'm someone that you drop me off in the middle of nowhere with a room full of strangers, I'm probably going to be the first one to have a conversation and just try to break the silence and kind of get the ball rolling, because everybody's got a story and everyone's got lessons to be learned. You have to be open. You have to be open in your consciousness, open in your heart, open in your ability to connect with people. So what's next for me? That's a great and a beautiful mystery, but I do think it's going to continue to be in hospitality. It's going to continue to be revolving around food, but the more people I have the opportunity to connect with and share my thought process on, and also, like, I love when someone challenges my thought process, because that then sends me a signal that's like, okay, like, what else can you be doing? What else can you be thinking about? Where else can you be motivated? What else can you learn? Because there's always someone that's like, what you're talking about doesn't work for me. It doesn't work at all for me. And these are reasons why. And everyone's very, very open to saying this when they feel necessary. But I feel like I've come to a point where, the agree to disagree can be a really beautiful place to be too, because you're learning their side, they're learning yours. And when you can absorb that type of friction, it's very healthy. And I feel like, being a chef, every guest that's going to walk in your door that you're going to serve and operate, whether it's someone that you see that's like a client that comes in, they're like, I eat your food every Wednesday, to the guest that's going to be there once and you'll never see again. You're not going to make every single person happy. And feedback is such an important part of growth. And it's just you got to be able to be open to it, because if you're not open to feedback, you'll always be stuck on this one path. And if you look up from space and you look at some of the greatest rivers in the world, the greatest river in the world and the greatest rivers, they don't run straight. They curve, they branch out, and they find necessary places to keep growing, right? I want to be like a river. I want to be flowing in a direction that's going to feed me, that's going to feed more people, that's going to keep kind of branching out. Because at the end of the day, the more you can branch out, in this life, for all we know, no matter your religious background, your spiritual background, universal background, like for all I know is I have right here, right now, and I don't know when right here, right now is going to be done. And so I want to make sure that right here, right now has the best chances of being successful. And that's happiness, that's moving through emotion, that's moving through life in a way that you can really feel. And I think when you feel life and you feel like everyone knows, and like happy moments, we're elated, sad moments, we hit the ground and we're it's tough. But if we didn't have that, how could we ever find balance? We're never going to have a perfect outlook, but we can also have so much to be grateful for, even in the times that we're getting a major life lesson. Like I think that you just have to be really open. And I think that that's some of the stuff I want to continue to mentor people on and be mentored by teachers that I follow, and also by the people I come into contact with, because they all have a lesson to teach.
Absolutely. And gratefulness is like you said, so important. That's a pillar in my life. And once I turned to gratefulness, I realized all that I had, all the true wealth and wellness that I already had. And now, I'm not seeking external things yet. Sure, there's things that I want to provide for my family. And, I think every generation wants to provide a better life for their family than they got. And we want to continue to work hard, but I think you hit the nail on the head. I think we're worried about the wrong things. I think if we focus on being present and finding that balance, because we cannot experience joy without sadness. There has to be contrast. We cannot experience light without experiencing the darkness. And I'm so grateful to have met you, and grateful that, you are sharing your knowledge, because that's a true transfer of wealth, is the sharing of knowledge. And we're not doing that enough. And, we're not researching enough. We're not being critical consumers of this information, as we are in this information age, and we have all this information at our fingertips. There's almost too much. And it's hard to get the right stuff. And especially when it comes to lifestyles and food. But I really like just, your whole philosophy around food being your medicine, and that just simplifies it. And I think everybody can understand that concept. And I think everybody can agree that, hey, your body is going to be happier with you, and you're going to get a higher output level if you eat some fruits and vegetables and some healthy grains and nuts and whatnot, as opposed to a cheeseburger, or French fries all the time. What's your advice for restaurateurs, guys and gals in the kitchen, to implement? You live those days and you see the everyday struggles and just challenges that arise in that industry, because you got to be a certain type of person. You gotta be gritty, and you gotta be dedicated and disciplined and coachable. And, there's a lot of things that go into being a chef, or even in working in the restaurant business. So what is some advice that someone can implement today?
Yeah, I think I've seen in real life transformation, which is, you got to remember to breathe. You got to remember to take a deep breath. And like, it's a stressful environment. There's no doubt about it. Like, it's treated the same way that emergency room is treated. You know what I mean? Like that ticket on the line that has gone 5 minutes longer than it was supposed to is treated the same way that someone in cardiac arrest that's 68 years old and has been smoking their entire life. It has the same energy output sometimes that is like this life or death situation. And I think, what happens, and this will speak to like leadership in kitchens and leadership in hospitality, is like, you got to bring your team together to have mindful moments and have moments that matter. So for me, whether it's you bring everybody outside, get them out of their environment they're in, to do a stand-up, to do a shift meeting. It doesn't have to be 30 minutes. It doesn't have to be you talking at them. It doesn't have to be anything. It can just be, I'm grateful that you're all here. Thank you all for being here. Let's take 2 minutes to take a deep breath. And that type of thought process, and then to bring them to say, in the moment tonight, we're going to have some busy stretches. There's going to be some mistakes. Everyone keep their calm. Everybody remember to come back to this moment, come back to this breath, come back to this, and just try to find their peace. Because, when you're in the weeds, you're still going to be working just as hard, but if you can actually take a deep breath and slow down for a second mentally, you're going to put out a better product. You're going to be cleaner in your motions. You're going to have less waste of motion as well. Because when stress happens, we move a little faster than we actually need to. The other things are, the thought process around the finance, right? I mean, when you're coming up as a dishwasher, a cook, a prep cook, like you're probably working 2 jobs. Most people are not lucky enough to go through saving money or saving. But one thing I would say is when you get overtime and when you get those choices to have overtime, save it, because you never know what's going to happen. I think COVID taught us a lot of things with, things can come out of nowhere and they can shut things down right away. And if you don't have a backup plan, I always preach to the team when I'm like, it's going to be a really busy week. There is going to be overtime available. Don't take this overtime and go buy the fancy watch that you really don't need, or don't take this money and just go blow it. Like, try to save this for yourself, because this is extra. And when you put in extra work, you got to save some of that extra to get to the next level, because if you create things, then you can't invest. You know what I mean? Like, you can't just live your life. If you can, I get it. Like, a lot of people live paycheck to paycheck, but what are you doing in your life that is necessary versus not necessary? And I think in the kitchen, in hospitality, we're consistently making others happy. We're consistently finding a way to make others feel good. But what are you doing for yourself? So I always ask my team, and when we come back from our days off, what did you do for yourself? There will be opportunities that come, whether it's you're investing in crypto, you're investing in a 401k, you're going to buy a house and go in on a house with somebody. Like, there's things you can do to diversify yourself. But if you can't separate and look at a paycheck in a different way, because a lot of people look at a paycheck and are like, here's my bills and here's my fun. Like, fun is great and fun is awesome. Like, trust me, like, I love doing things, but like I said before, if you're not willing to sacrifice, you will never actually have the fun that you deserve to have in life. I think the other thing as well is, we got to treat people like people. In this industry, we kind of treat people like they're a number, or like they're a machine that can just kind of take abuse. And that's, whether it's gaslighting them or it's talking down to them, like, you got to treat people like people, because this is a people driven industry. Like, we have guests that come in that pay for a service by people that provide a service. And if it's not 50-50, and I get it, that's a very hard thing to look at, especially in the industry. But I do think that there's a lot of change coming, a lot of lead coming of, these leaders and these chefs and these restaurateurs that are saying, what would my team be like if they worked maybe 10-hour shifts instead of 16? Like, what would it be like if my team got to, eventually work a 50-hour work week, or a 45-hour, 40-hour work week? Like, what are they going to then do with their lives to then bring back to us? Because when you burn the candle at both ends, everyone knows what ends up happening. There's no more wax left. And that's our energy, that's our heart, that's our passion, all right there. So treating people like people in a people-driven industry is an interesting concept. It sounds really simple, but it's very difficult. And I feel like that's something that I've been preaching about, because when I hire anyone in a leadership position, there's one question I ask every single one in an interview, whether it's the beginning or the end. It kind of comes at when I know it's time to come, but I ask them, what's more important to you? The people, like your team, or the food and food quality? And it's very interesting to see the response, because a chef is trained mostly to answer, it's all about the food. It's all about the food. It's all about this. It's all about that. If you really break it all down, it's all about the people, because it starts with the person that's planting that food and the relationship you have with them and the trust you build with them and their relationship. It's about the staff that you bring on, that you mentor and you hire and you train, and it's about the guests. So if you can put the people level together and connect with people on a level that brings them happiness, joy, responsibility, gratitude, confidence, like all that comes into play, you're going to have a really successful team. And I'm really proud of what we did at 14, where it's very hard to hire in Northern California. It's a very competitive market. It's very expensive out here. We've had the same group of cooks, sous chef, chef de cuisine, even through the pandemic, we laid everybody off. They're still, all the original team is back and working. And that's because it's about the people first, because if I don't have the people, I don't have anything. And I think that's a lesson that can be learned, is don't treat people like a number, treat them like a human being. And you'll be able to see them blossom to a level that they actually can see themselves. Because a lot of people that come into the restaurant industry too are damaged or come from some not so great situations. And if you're able to light that fire, to turn that switch in somebody, all it takes is one. and that can really turn a whole team into a great place. So I think that, that's some thought process to that.
That's amazing. Yeah, I can definitely resonate with that. And do you have would you recommend anything to the audience in regards to books or anybody on the internet that has made a strong impact on your life?
Well, I think, going back to that whole plant-based journey that I took, about almost 6 years ago, there's a book called The First Mess. I can't remember the author's name, but it's The First Mess. And it's a full plant-based book. And it's one of those that, I feel like a lot of people get scared, like, all I'm going to be eating is kale and freaking almonds. Like, no, there's a whole other world out there of this. And I feel like she brings a diversity and a very simple approach to plant-based eating. And that's exciting too, I think, for families, couples, for individuals. And I would just challenge everybody, just try maybe one recipe a week, one recipe a month, and just see how you feel. And, I want to go back to a second. You talked about, like, you can't just be the person eating a cheeseburger all the time, this, that, and the other thing. If you're going to eat a cheeseburger, know what is in your cheeseburger. Like, if you're going to go to a grocery store and you look at it, like, organic, grass-fed, commercial, like, what decision are you going to make to really think about it? And I feel like you got to listen to the body too. You got to listen to the body and the signs. Like, when you eat something, give yourself a 30-minute window to an hour after you eat and start recording how you feel. Because there's certain things that, and we talk about anti-inflammatory, when you're in a state where you're agitated and the body's not feeling well, when it's bloating, swelling of joints, itchy, tired, angry, depressed, all can come from food. So being able to listen to the body, the signs are there. It's the writings on the walls. It's just, can you take a mindful moment to take a step back and ask yourself, how do I feel about that? And that'll change your perspective on what you're eating pretty quickly too. We all know you go out the night before, you drink too much, you eat Jack in the Box at 3 a.m. because you just have to get this in your stomach. You're probably not going to feel great the next day. But if you, follow the guideline of listening to the body and understanding, like, well, if I eat a little bit more balanced and I get some rest and I get some movement and I take a moment for myself, whatever my meditation is, that'll change your life more than anything.
It should just be common sense. I mean, yeah, get your rest, drink your water, eat your vegetables, but it's sad that it's not. And that, I boil it down to everyone's got the same 24 hours in the day. So it's our choice. We choose how we spend our 24 hours. We have to make those little choices. What time do we wake up? What do we eat for breakfast? What are we breaking our fast with? When we go to the grocery store, we have all those micro decisions, and the output is really what we see and what we hear and what we ingest, a combination of those things. And by doing so, we're constantly programming ourselves. And, I just really appreciate you sharing all your knowledge, because, I do know that we're going to impact at least one person and cause a ripple effect. You are that flowing river. And I'm so grateful for our friendship and to watch your river grow and to see all the people that you impact in your life.
Absolutely. Just listen to yourself, take time every day to just slow down for a second and assess and analyze you. And thank your body for all that it does, and thank your mind for all that it gets you through. And, take some deep breaths and be in silence to understand and to hear the message that you're going to get from your body. It will speak. It'll be pretty loud too, if you're in the right space. I'm definitely on LinkedIn under just Kenny Woods. I really love to share with other professionals. I'm on Instagram as chef.kenny.woods, where you can see a lot of the storytelling of what I do on a daily basis with the people, with my team. And those are the two platforms I stick to, but I definitely check in and make sure that I'm connecting with people, because, like I said before, I'm a lover of life, but I'm also a lover of humankind. And for me, it's I love to connect with people on all different phases, and I have outlets. So if you're looking like you want to get deeper into any of the topics I've discovered, I have resources, not here on the fly, but definitely could connect with different people and different outlets of what they could do for themselves and their wealth and their wealth management of their life.
That's awesome. Keep doing what you're doing, Kenny. I love it. I'm a big fan, and so grateful that our paths crossed. And I believe that everybody comes into your life for a reason or a season, and I never discredit any connection, anybody that comes into my life. I try to look at their spirit when you look at someone's spirit, their appearance starts to change. So thank you again, Kenny. We will see you next time.
Absolutely. Thank you.
I'll talk to you soon.
All right. Take care.
Please like this podcast, share on your feed, and check out the link in the description for free educational resources or for business inquiries. This is the Wealth and Wellness with Eric Jetson podcast. It's time to activate and elevate. Your journey continues.